Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I want to welcome you all to a very special series called Medication Made Easy. My name is Emmanuel Jenkins. I am with the Delaware Developmental Disabilities Council. If you have not already, please make sure you subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. And make sure you like this video. Give us a thumbs up or leave us a comment. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming my very special guest. I got Jason and I got Alex, who is from accessiblepharmacy.com. That's right, you heard it right. Accessiblepharmacy.com. And you may be wondering exactly what that is. Well, we're going to answer all of your questions about accessiblepharmacy.com. Welcome you both to this very special edition of Let's Talk About It.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
So before we get into what we want to talk about today, can you please share with our audience who you guys are, how did Accessible Pharmacy come about, and what roles do you guys play within accessiblepharmacy.com?
All right, well, I guess I can start that. Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Cohen, and I am a proud co-founder of Accessible Pharmacy Services. And first and foremost, we should let everybody know that Accessible Pharmacy Services is a comprehensive medication management healthcare company specializing in the needs of the disabled community. Now, I myself am blind. I was diagnosed over 25 years ago with a retinal disease called retinitis pigmentosa, and have been struggling with vision loss for most of my life. Despite that, I became a marketing professor. And a lot of the research that I do is about the inclusion of people with disabilities in the marketplace, both online and offline. And a lot of work that I had done was about the inclusion of people within the pharmacy space. And, identified that people with disabilities, medication management is difficult for anybody. If you throw in an extra variable, being blind or low vision or any other type of disability or impairment, it makes things just that much more difficult. And so I came together with one of our other partners who also had worked in the accessibility space. And we met up with our friend and partner, Dr. Jason Barrett, and created Accessible Pharmacy Services to fill a much needed gap in the marketplace. There are so many different options for where people can get their medications, but we really pride ourselves on understanding what it's like for our patients with disabilities. In so many other places out there, people with disabilities are an afterthought. Might have some type of an amenity or accommodation, just in case the blind guy from the neighborhood comes in. Well, that's our entire reason for being. That's our core competency, is to take care of people with disabilities and their specific disabilities. For example, of the different features and benefits, first and foremost, we view each of our patients as an individual with unique needs, right? People have, are progressing differently, have different support systems, different, levels of their disability, different types of medication they're on, and we work with each individual to find the best solutions for them.
Thank you, Alex. And I'm Jason Barrett. I'm a doctor of clinical pharmacy. I'm the chief medical officer at Accessible Pharmacy. I'd like to echo everything that Alex said, that what's so important to us is that each patient that comes our way understands that we have designed and implemented everything from our service perspective to meet their needs, both in a general sense in the blind and low vision community, but also in the specific sense that each person is an individual. And the one thing that I can say that we're most proud of at this point is that when we get to meet somebody as a client, we get the opportunity to become very well connected to them at a personal level and provide them a solution that meets their needs, no matter what their level of sight, no matter what their level of drug utilization is, or their disability in general. So as Alex said, medication management is difficult. Adding blindness, and now, of course, in the COVID pandemic, it's just becoming that much more challenging. So from our perspective, we understand that each individual is going to need something a little bit different. There is no off-the-shelf solution for anybody. And we've been so thrilled and happy to learn so much from the client base and to create a community that is completely accessible and inclusive. And as Alex said, one of our sayings is not in case of, but because of. It's because of the patient being who they are that we are here. And the one thing I can say for sure is that we will never stop learning. We will never stop innovating. We will never stop delivering a higher level of care. And to sort of marry to what we would call a highly accessible, highly inclusive environment, we're providing an extraordinary clinical experience as well, because we have married accessibility to better patient outcomes to provide the highest level of care for any patient. Our website, our materials are completely accessible, but our clinical professionals and our staff have been trained and are experienced in the specific needs of patients with disability. So when someone calls and they have a particular challenge, no one on the end of the line is going to say, wow, I've never heard of that, or I don't know what to do about that, because our people know exactly who the other person is on the end of that phone. Many of our employees are, in fact, in the low vision and blind community, both from a customer care perspective, but also from a sales perspective. So we have not only offered this to patients who are blind or have low vision, but we've brought people in that community in to help work with others. So there's an immediate recognition and understanding of what the challenges are on the other side. It's been an unbelievable experience for me. I've been so thrilled, and this has really been the most gratifying thing that I've ever done in my life.
Wow, wow. You mentioned some very, very crucial things there. Um, and to know that you guys have not only provided such a great service, but you have people with disability as part of the model. And again, it's not it's not, as Alex said, I afterthought. You guys came up with a service to provide, but you knew right off the bat that you needed people with disabilities to be part of that. It reminds me of that saying, nothing for us without us. To understand not only from a business perspective, but to understand the consumers who you are serving. So again, I'm excited, and again, thank you guys for sharing that. But can you go into just a little bit more detail about what you guys offer? I know you gave us a kind of an overlook of what you guys are, but can you share some of the specific services within that accessible program?
So Emmanuel, think of it as sort of what we would call two different pathways at one time. So the first pathway would be the entry into what we would call the accessible marketplace. So at the forefront of what we've done, before we even attempt to help anybody, is we've created an environment that's very, very accessible. So everything from the website, to our app, to our employees, to the training methodology, to our workflow, has been designed for patients in the low vision and blind community. So there is really no obstacles to access medication management. So you start off with, all the work that Alex has done and all of the research and time that he's put into accessible marketing and services, and combine it with the technologies that our partner Andy and Alex have worked on together to bring patients into our environment in a way that really relieves the burden. Burden is such a very big thing to all people, but let alone those that have a disability. We are pulling away the burden of access. We are relieving the consternation and anxiety about interacting with the marketplace. And at that point, when they come into us as patients, we're providing them with an extraordinarily high level of clinical pharmacy to help them manage their medications. So the way that we do that is, once we have their medication regimen, we put forth a number of different screening technologies and clinical pharmacy interface to explain to them exactly what each of the medications they're using is doing, and then provide consultation and connection to their physicians in case there are any inherent challenges to them adhering to their medications, or providing them with what we would call a decreased quality of life, side effects, unnecessary drug interactions, but also the affordability from the perspective of their insurance. Later on today, we're going to talk about Medicare open enrollment, but getting drugs right is not just about what they do for you. It's about what they do with each other. It's about how they change your day. It's about how you afford them. So bringing an accessible environment to patients, and then when they're here, providing them with a higher level of pharmaceutical care, greater connectivity to their physicians, greater connectivity to their insurance providers, a greater understanding of why they're taking their medications, any kind of precaution, and to be very frank, a second series or set of information systems so that they can have more confidence in what they're taking. On top of all that, we provide concierge distribution of medications in different kinds of packaging that are specifically designed to be used by patients with disability, that are much easier than traditional forms. And we have a number of options, because we understand one thing for sure: what works for me will not work for you, will not work for Alex or otherwise. And we mandate nothing. We provide a series of options. And the other thing is that the patient has the opportunity to change their packaging, their distribution schedule. It really is up to them in terms of what we offer to make up their own mind. But we have so many options that they can have the freedom to choose and to change if something changes in their world. If for some reason they're in a different living environment, if they now have a companion that they live with, if they don't have a companion that they live with, if their mail comes at the wrong time of day, we'll make adjustments to all of the way that they get their medications so that they feel comfortable and the burden is relieved. So I'll give you a simple example of some of the value-added services. We have what we call active refill management. So at any given moment when a patient's prescriptions are expiring, we're calling their physicians. We're making sure that they have backups on their refills. We're taking care of that for them. If there's a message that their doctor would like to send back to them, we are bringing that information to them. And if there's anything that they'd like to know about their medications, whether it be something they're on currently or something new, or if they have a question about something that they've seen on TV or something that they've read, we're there to provide them that support. At the end of every year, this time of year, as a matter of fact, we provide guidance for those patients who are in the open enrollment period for Medicare and Medicaid at no charge. So we access Medicare and we explain to them exactly the programs that they're eligible for and what their experiences are in terms of financials and what is covered and so on and so forth. So it really is, it's an accessibility platform that provides an incredible clinical pharmacy support system, as well as unlimited access to professionals who have been trained and have technologies that are specifically designed for them.
Wow, you guys do a lot. I almost want to ask you, what don't you do? Because it sounds like you do everything.
We don't do Windows.
You don't do Windows. That is very notable. You don't do Windows. You bring up something very, very important, and it's something that I experienced several months ago. And I can say it freely. I take lisinopril for high blood pressure, and I've always had migraine issues. But a couple months ago, I got a real bad migraine out of nowhere. and I before COVID, and I went to the hospital, and they did, blood work and the whole nine. And the doctor comes back and he says, your potassium is dangerously low, like low to the point where they had me hooked up to potassium through an IV. He gave me a prescription for potassium through a pill. And his question was, I see that you're on lisinopril. And I said, yeah, and I didn't think anything of it. He said, well, lisinopril can lower your potassium levels. Now, when my doctor prescribed it, he didn't mention to me, you know, he gave me the traditional side effects and things like that, but it was never mentioned to me, because you're on this, you may want to beef up your potassium intake. And once I was able to, which I'm a really big potato guy, love potatoes, so I had no, issue with trying to eat more potassium. But once I was able to do that, that started eliminating those migraines that I was having. So to know that you guys, not only look at the side effects, but look at things that may be interfering with it, some other medications or some of the other challenges that a person may be having. Again, thank you guys for really
So,
doing about.
so you've brought up a specific case study that is your own, and that's it's amazing that you had that experience, and I'm sorry for that. But the fact that you brought it up is interesting because we have in our system a number of screening measures that discuss, and this is something that I think we can talk about later on, what the nutritional concerns are for medication utilization. So that's a very particularly important part of our patient consultation, is to be wary of your dietary concerns, because so in your case, you're taking medication that may deplete your potassium levels. That's extraordinarily important for you to know, and also for your doctor to sort of be involved with, because they're going to take your blood and determine that, and then they can gauge the amount of potassium you take based on that level. But there are other medications that require a full stomach or an empty stomach or a fatty meal, and some that you want to avoid, nutrition with. There are some that, deplete, your B vitamins. There are some that, would make you need to take folic acid. So that's an extraordinarily important topic, but also our system has an artificial intelligence monitoring that observes all of those requirements and what we would call, precautions, and provides an external report for us to discuss with you. So if you're on a statin drug, for example, you'd want to think about using coenzyme Q10. That's a perfect example. If you're taking an antibiotic, you may want to think about using probiotics because it would deplete some of your normal flora. All of those concerns are cross-referenced in our system, and we're able to present that to patient both in a written form, but also in this kind of thing, in a discussion. So I'm sorry that happened to you, but it's a perfect example of how it's very important to be empowered and know your meds and have resources like us to help you with them.
Absolutely. So speaking of resources and speaking of you guys being in my eyes, a trailblazer to this kind of work. Uh, how, how long has accessible pharmacy been around?
So our base pharmacy has actually been around for nearly 50 years. But in terms of it being specialized in accessibility, it's really been the last year or so that we've done the research and crafted what we would call the platform. So, in many ways, Alex can tell you about his 20 years working in the field, and Andy his, and my 30, and so on and so forth. And I only have 30 because I'm older. Having said that, so really it's about 100 years of human beings working in different areas on sort of things that would help. And then the three of us coming together over the last, I'd say, year or so to start the process of creating a platform. But, it's just important to know that we weren't going to rush into this. We weren't going to bring it to public until we had everything that really would deliver the right solution.
Wow.